Will these summer movies flop or succeed at the box office? Starting off with the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, which is kind of an interesting one because yes, the brand is absolutely massive, but so is the budget. They reportedly spent between $150 to $200 million on this movie, which does make sense because obviously this was a very CGI heavy film with all the dragons and stuff, and if you add the marketing budget onto that, they probably have to make like at least $400 to $450 million to even break even on this thing. Now, the highest grossing How to Train Your Dragon movie ever is the second one with $621 million worldwide, but I'm going to throw out a hot take here. I not only think that this movie is going to be a massive success, I think it's also going to become the highest grossing movie of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, going over $700 million. I think it can do it because its only competition for family and kids films are Lilo and Stitch, that's already been in theaters for a while by the time How to Train Your Dragon comes out, and Elio that comes out at the end of June. And this movie, spoiler alert, I don't think is going to do very well at all at the box office. Because I don't know what was happening over there at Pixar's offices, but they somehow spent $300 million just on the production of this film alone, not including any of the marketing. They probably have to make like $500 to $600 million to break even on this thing. Now, we can kind of cheat on this one because there are some early tracking numbers for the prediction of how much it's going to make in its opening weekend, and they're saying it's going to be around like $35 to $45 million domestically. But tracking numbers aren't too reliable when you're talking about like kids and family films because they don't really pre-order or buy tickets online a lot. These get a lot of families just walking up to the box office, but even with that being said, I don't think this movie is going to be that big, especially when you have such huge summer blockbusters coming out in July. I really think this thing's going to be completely overshadowed by How to Train Your Dragon, Lilo and Stitch, and all those upcoming films. Still sticking with June new movies, 28 Years Later comes out at the end of this month. Obviously, this is a sequel to 28 Days Later, which is a film that you couldn't even watch for the longest period at home, and 28 Weeks Later, but I think this is also going to pull in a new crowd of people that aren't even familiar with the previous two films, just seeing like, oh, it's a zombie horror movie. The last film in the franchise, 28 Weeks Later, only ended up making $68 million at the box office, but it was made for a very cheap $15 million. This film, on the other hand, has been made for $75 million of a budget. This movie would have to make like $150 to $200 million worldwide to break even, which isn't that big of a milestone to hit, especially since there's not a ton of horror competition in June or July or the summer in general. If you want to go see a horror movie, people are just going to go and see this. I think it will be a moderate success, just kind of barely get over the break-even mark, maybe make like $250 million, so kind of a success. I'm going to throw it in the break-even category though, because I think that's where it's going to fall. The end of June is also bringing us the new F1 racing movie starring Brad Pitt, and this is on pace to be maybe one of the biggest flops of all time. Now, we don't even know how much it's estimated to make in its opening weekend, but it kind of doesn't matter. Again, this is another movie that has a budget reportedly of $300 million. A lot of that was with the licensing of F1 itself. This film is directed by the same person that did Top Gun Maverick. That was like a super sensation a couple summers ago, soaring over $1 billion at the box office. I don't think that's going to happen with an F1 type of movie. It just doesn't have that same general appeal, even though it does kind of look pretty good to me. And I'm not even someone that's a fan of F1 racing. I'm still interested, but I really don't think this is going to pull in the general public in the insane numbers it needs. With the advertising, it probably needs to make at least like $400 to $600 million, depending on how much they spend. It's not doing anything close to those numbers. Probably will end up being the biggest flop of the summer. Hopefully it's at least a good movie though. I won't spend much time on Ballerina since it only comes out like 6 days from the day I'm recording this, so I don't want this video to age too poorly. The John Wick franchise has obviously been a money glitch for Lionsgate. Like, they've already came out with 4 of those original John Wick movies. They already confirmed a 5th one, which kind of makes no sense if you've seen the 4th movie. And this is the first of like 3 other new John Wick spin-offs we're going to be seeing, so they are obviously making money on these films up until this point. And Ballerina is on pace to make $35 million domestically in its open weekend, which is the second best for any John Wick movie ever. The budget is pretty high, like 80 to 90 million. Again, it would only need to make probably around 200 million to fully break even on its budget, which is not a high bar to cross. I think it can do that, but I don't think it's going to go much further. I feel like this is kind of going to be like, oh yeah, the opening weekend numbers are pretty good because all the John Wick fans are going to go and see it. I don't know how much general appeal this film's going to have. It's probably not going to be like a masterpiece or anything. So I think it's going to top out around that like $250 million range and just be a nice break-even success at the box office, probably pretty big on streaming afterwards. It just doesn't seem like the type of movie to get people out of their homes and go to the theaters. Before we get to the July huge movies, we do still have one more June release, that's Megan 2.0. I guess I kind of forgot this is technically like horror competition for 28 Years Later, but they're very different type of horror films. That's more like your actually scary film. This is like a horror comedy. It just looks so incredibly stupid. I'm I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've never even watched the first Megan movie. It just does not seem like my thing whatsoever. It made $180 million worldwide though on a pretty cheap budget. Because the first Megan movie cost under $15 million to make, so they made a ton of money on that. No surprise we're getting a second one. And this one reportedly only has a budget of like $20 to $25 million. It's probably gonna make that back in its opening weekend and be a huge success. Because again, making cheap horror movies is a money glitch in Hollywood. Now we're finally into the July big blockbuster season, starting off with Superman. I made a video a week ago when we got the first tracking early predictions for this film, and they are insane numbers, saying that domestically alone, which just means in the United States, is on pace to make $175 million in its opening weekend. Plus, this is opening globally, like in China and other major markets on the very same day. This thing could make like $300 million in its very opening weekend. Now, even if you go back to my videos from last year predicting superhero movie box offices, I thought this was going to be a success, but I did not expect it on this level. Now it looks like it could honestly go on pace to be like $1 billion film and be the hit of the summer. Now, other films that had a similar opening weekend are like Batman vs. Superman, that still went on to make a very good like $800 million, but it didn't make that billion because the film wasn't that good, or at least a lot of the general public didn't really like it. So as long as this movie's actually good to genuinely great, I think it's a lock for $1 billion, and obviously a success because of that. Which is really just insane how DC was completely dead a couple years ago. The DCU was putting out flop after flop with movies like The Flash and so many other ones that nobody liked, and now they took a couple year break, came back with this reboot, and now they're on pace to just absolutely decimate the competition at the box office and set up their new DCU on a great start. And before we get to the other July movies, let's just stick with the superhero theme, because 2 weeks after Superman, we're going to be getting the Fantastic Four First Steps. Now, we don't have any early tracking for this film's box office. We really don't know the budget, although following recent Marvel movies, we can assume it's at least like $150 million to $200 million. Like even the Thunderbolts movie that seemed like more grounded, less CGI, and a lesser known cast for the most part. Obviously, they're still big stars and stuff. That already cost $200 million, so I think this is definitely going to be around that area. So assuming it's around there, a little bit more expensive, plus the huge marketing. We know Marvel always at least doubles their budget, probably more honestly. This thing probably has to make at least like $450 to $500 million to even start breaking even. Now, a few years ago, that used to be a guarantee for the MCU, but with stuff like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and the Marvels in 2023, those both went under $500 million worldwide. Then 2024, they had Deadpool and Wolverine, but then again this year, Captain America: Brave New World, $415 million. Thunderbolts, $361 million. These are both in the bottom 5 of the MCU's highest grossing films of all time. The MCU simply just lost the faith of the general public, and it's been going for so long that it's not bringing in new fans. Now, yes, this movie does take place in a separate universe with very famous characters. There's not really any prior baggage or homework or any movies that you have to watch to go in and understand this, but does the general public even know that because of the recent Marvel movie hype? That's all you've been hearing about Marvel lately, is the Marvel fatigue, and oh no, they're falling off and everything's over. Plus, this comes out 2 weeks after Superman. Maybe people will just get their superhero fix with that film, since it's looking like it's going to be massive. I don't think it's going to be a flop. I think it's going to make a little bit more than Brave New World, probably cap out at around $600 million, so it could go right over the break-even mark, but I'm going to have to put it in the break-even category. Another reason I think the Fantastic Four is kind of in trouble and isn't going to go close to $1 billion or anything is because, again, right before that comes out, it's not only Superman, you also have Jurassic World Rebirth, another movie that people are going to go to for their big summer blockbuster fix. Jurassic World Dominion was terrible and made $1 billion. Again, no homework required. There's no like MCU fatigue or anything with this. People like going and seeing a big dumb dinosaur movie, and this one actually looks pretty good from the trailers. I think it's going to make a ton of money. Can it reach that $1 billion? I'm not sure. There's a weird situation going on where it doesn't get any IMAX screen, which is obviously the most expensive tickets you can buy, because they're all going to the Fantastic Four and Superman. So that's one advantage that those films have over this. But again, a lot of the general public isn't going to be interested in superheroes, but they'll go see the big dinosaur movie. So still a massive success. Probably will make at least like $850 million. Unfortunately, the Smurfs musical starring Rihanna as Smurfette is still coming out, yes, in July. Now, it's on a weekend after all these other huge films like Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, Fantastic Four. Now, obviously, this is going for a younger audience, but I genuinely don't think kids really care about the Smurfs and are going to be, like, begging their parents to go and see this. They'd probably rather go see, like, Superman or How to Train Your Dragon still going to be in theaters, or any of those other things instead of this. Probably even Elio over this film. I could be dumb. Kids' movies are always a money glitch, but I think this is going to be a flop. I can't even imagine how much money they paid Rihanna to star in this thing, so I'm putting it in the flop category. I might be dumb on back-to-back picks here, but Disney's Freakier Friday is coming out, a sequel to Freaky Friday. Again, I know the first one's kind of a classic at this point, but I think they're overestimating how much people really care about this. I think it's going to be a huge bomb at the box office, but then put in huge numbers on Disney Plus. It just seems like one of those types of films. This is not the type of movie, again, that's going to bring in like a bunch of families. And lastly, The Bad Guys original movie made $250 million. So this is guaranteed to be a massive success. If you want to hear about the Fantastic Four first reviews, click the video at the top. Or if you want to hear more Superman box office talk and what it means for the future of DC, click the video at the bottom. Thank you so much for watching.